welcome back to the channel. If we have not met before, which is highly likely given this is a new channel, my name is Pip and welcome to my walk today. Today we are going to be heading into the garden because it is a beautiful sunny day and hopefully it will stay that way for a little bit longer. We have had some ferociously bad weather and that means that there are a range of fungal diseases in my veggie patch that need to be dealt with, and plants that have died, and end of season plants that have hung on for dear life, and it's time for them to get going. So we've got to deal with all of them, and I've still got a ton of garlic bulbs that I need to plant, and because I'm not sure how much longer I will be in this rental, I needed to get another container to put them in, because apparently garlic can take up to 9 months to be ready. So that is something that I did not know before. So hopefully today, if the weather holds out, we're going to do that. I haven't been in the garden for such a long time. Instead, I have been in and out of hospital, in and out of specialist offices, and hiding inside because of the rain. So hopefully today's the day. There is a lot of work to do in the garden. First thing I've got to do is I've got to get rid of these ornamental kales, as beautiful as I think they are. And they completely smothered my capsicums or sweet peppers, and so I didn't actually get a harvest of them, which was a bit disappointing. But more to the point, I came over to look at them the other day thinking they were about to go to seed, and I suddenly realized that they are covered in the most ferocious aphid infestation that I have ever seen. And so this is disgusting and it's got to get chucked in the bin. The second thing that needs to get dealt with is the puppy digging up the potatoes. Raffy. So there was a couple that looked like they had blight after all the rain, but I noticed today that there is a little green nibbled potato that has come up from underneath, and a lot of the greenery on them is squashed because of said puppy, but some of them did have what looked to me like blight, and so I did chop off those leaves and they've been looking healthier since. But I think because they've been squashed, they actually really need to tidy up. So I bought some methylated spirits out to clean my prunes with and my pruners with, and there's a lot of work to be done. At some point I need to plant these little lettuce seedlings that have been hidden in amongst here forever that I completely forgot about. I reckon these celery are getting pretty close to harvest. At least they're finally looking like a little bit thicker and normal thickness, but my god, they're so slow to grow. There are some beautiful flowers to harvest. I'm going to let these bok choy go to seed because the bees are enjoying the flowers, and unfortunately at the moment bees in New South Wales are dealing with the varroa mite, so if these little bees are happy and healthy, then I want to let them enjoy the bok choy flowers, and if they go to seed, then that's awesome. But it's winter and they need some flowers. Once again, seedlings for spinach that I bought or tried to grow from seed are completely underwhelming. More celery is super slow to grow, but my cabbage are looking pretty good. So that one's got a nice little head on it. The red one seems to be doing absolutely nothing, and the smaller green one in there seems to be starting to think about doing some things. But other than that, a lot of other things have died because it's end of season or we've had so much rain. Most of my cauliflowers have actually produced now, which was quite a surprise. There are two that are overcooked, and that's just because I have been going to Sydney a lot for medical problems, which feels like, especially today, that it's a never-ending part of my life. And anyway, so I'm thinking that I'm going to leave these to see what happens when they go to seed. So it will be interesting, but the other ones that have been harvested need to get pulled out. My beautiful beans were doing so well, but the rains have got them, and they've got a horrible fungal looking disease, and it's time for them to go. The tomato plant is officially dead, whether by fungal disease or low temperatures, nobody knows. Hey sweetheart, could you get off the new seedlings? A couple of the newly planted cauliflowers have disappeared / died. We probably know why, given the puppy was just running around in here. But the spring onions look to be coming along quite nicely, which is a little bit of a surprise. My other ones died, just like my onions, probably because of the stupid rain. I know I should be grateful that we're getting rain, but oh, we've had enough. So theoretically carrots are under his feet, but they haven't really achieved much. I wonder why. This broccoli is producing against the odds. I'm a bit confused as to how it is producing, both because of Dennis the Menace here and because look at how chewed it is. It's got like no leaves. The marigolds over near where Rafa is are completely dead. This kale also needs some help. And as much as I try not to spray anything, I am going to spray because the infestation of aphids, because I haven't sprayed, is pretty profound. This looks like a nice juicy bean pod though. Don't mind if I do. Oh, the whole thing's falling apart. Oh, look at these beautiful peas. They just look so perfect. It's so hard to believe that the plant they came from looks like this. Raffy, do you want one of the peas? You want a snacky? Quick! Oh, I dropped it. Here, darling. Snacky. Like the hungriest boy in school. Here. You don't like it? Okay. This sunflower has long passed its use-by date, but these calendulas are looking amazing. The latest straw flowers I've planted are the most beautiful colours, and I can't wait to pick them and get them dried and hopefully have them on my Christmas tree this year. In happier news, my Swiss chard or silver beet is coming along beautifully, although it does look a little bit chewed, but considering how mangled the broccoli beside it look, it's doing pretty well. More chewed broccoli, but at least this lettuce is looking a little bit healthier than the stuff that's growing on my balcony that got smashed with all the rain. What are you up to, Curious George? These silver beets are just the most beautiful colour, and they just look so unexpectedly beautiful amongst the violas that I planted. But what's most surprising is that these tomato seedlings that I planted here at the beginning of winter, just because I had the seedlings and I thought, well, I might as well put them in and see what they do. They're doing so well. They look like they're starting to have a little bit of problem with the fact that I haven't pruned them and they've got leaves on the ground, and it's rained 200 days this year. But, well, it feels like it's rained 200 days. I think we've had this is the longest stretch we've had without rain, whether it be day or night, and it's been about 36 hours. So, I mean, all things considered, these little tomato plants are doing well. They look like they're trying to start the season early, which is a bit exciting. So we need to get them tidied up. So there's an awful lot of stuff to tidy up or rip out or spray. And that's just in this part of the garden. Ooh, more shelling peas. Let's see if we can. So good. My beautiful eucalyptus, which I thought was dead, has made a triumphant comeback, which is fantastic to see. But even my onions in pots have died. So I planted a stack of seedlings in here, and there's like 5 that have held on. And again, I think that's just the volume of rain we've had. But very excitingly, it looks like, oh, hi Ruffy, 2 or 3 years later, don't chew it, don't chew it. The billy buttons are finally flowering. the sweet potato has met its demise in our weather. These carrots are like looking super hopeful. Ooh, it looks like a big one, but it's still green, so it needs more time. These onions have oddly hung on. More carrots, plants that need to be planted. And check these out, bluebells. There's more beautiful straw flowers. And my favorite ever color of snapdragons. There are tons of violas popping up, all of which I planted from seed, so I'm really happy with that outcome. And it looks like these dwarf straw flowers are probably not dwarf, but the biggest problem is these aphids. So it seems like there's grey aphids on the kale, but there's all these, look at this infestation on my garlic, and I sprayed these the other day. So I really need to get in there and spray again. Oh, don't eat the aphids, don't eat the aphids, because they're just killing my garlic, which is very sad. But we have got the dog's head once again. We have got some beautiful hellebores coming through now. Somehow it seems even the petunias have survived winter, and the puppy dog. These straw flowers are the most beautiful colour, but I don't think they were the dwarf seeds I intended on planting. They're pretty tall. Now the puppy is covered in aphids too. Look, you've got aphids all over you. Gross. God, the stem on this is so thick. So gross. Okay, bye. It's impossible to be in the garden without Rafa nearby. To be fair, it's his garden too, so I don't mind the fact that he's bouncing around in the veggie patch, even if it means we lose a few plants. It's no big deal. Once I got going removing the kales, I realized every single kale plant was absolutely infested, and a few days later I would discover that there were also aphids infesting the broccoli, the cauliflower, and the growing cabbages. So I have quite a problem on my hands to be dealt with. The main goal here is just to clean out as much of the garden as I possibly can. We've got 3 more weeks left of winter and I can feel that the weather has started to shift. And I feel like it's time to start getting ready for spring. The local birds were quite active in their song the evening we were out in the garden, and it was really beautiful to listen to them as we worked through the garden and tried to clean up what we could. The garden bed needs quite a bit of work. It needs weeding, new fertilizer and new mulch, but I can't believe how much we grew in such a short space of time. These cauliflowers blew my mind. There were so many times I nearly pulled them out because they were so chewed by caterpillars, but they all produced, and unfortunately I was in Sydney for most of them, so most of them had separated too much. So they have been added to Rafa's freezer and he will eat those vegetables over the coming months as I make up his raw dinners. I did manage to use a couple of them, and while I didn't notice any major difference in the taste between them and supermarket ones, I still really loved the process. I didn't get as much done as I hoped I would today, mostly because I've run out of garbage bin space, but we are also running out of daylight time. So the main thing is that we got rid of most of the plants that were infested with aphids, and there were so many. They had just spread all over anything that was around the ornamental kale. One of the chewed broccolis is still actually covered in aphids, so now that it is dusk and the bees have all gone to bed, I am going to spray. But it was nice to get as much as I could done today because I'm going to be away again for a few days back in Sydney for more medical stuff, which means that the bins can be emptied and the ground can have a little bit of rest time, and I can spend a few days thinking about what I want to plant in these spots that have opened up in my garden as kind of like priority early spring plantings. So we've still got kind of 3 more weeks to go of winter technically. Hopefully this will actually mean that I will get a head start on my spring planting and therefore my harvest. I got a little bit of a harvest today, but really my winter crops were just decimated by the rain that we've had. This is why it's really important to look at different aspects of food security, because you're not always going to get a good season or a good harvest, and we just have had a terrible winter season. So it is what it is. Make the best of it, and hopefully spring and summer will be better. It's going to be a bit of a test to see if I can get these aphids under control, because this is a really bad outbreak. But I am hopeful that because I have chopped off the plants that were worst and chucked them in the garbage bin and sprayed them with bug spray, that hopefully most of them will die and then they will get taken away in the bin in a couple of days. For now, my best option is to spray with some neem oil. I don't want to be using a lot of sprays. As I've said, I've had a lot of medical problems and I have bad autoimmune issues, so I'm trying to do an organic garden, but this infestation is horrendous. I had amassed quite a collection of dried flowers, but unfortunately I lost them all in our first flood when the entire house became covered in mold. I plan to use them on my Christmas tree this year, so drying these flowers is a big priority for the garden this year. I really appreciate you guys spending some time with me today, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.